Hello and welcome to The World Today on Channels Television. I'm Cynthia Are. We begin in Ukraine, and the Ukrainian military has confirmed that forces have withdrawn from the airport of the eastern city of Luhansk after all-night clashes with pro-Russian rebels. Security officials also confirmed that the Ukrainian troops had come under attack from a column of Russian tanks. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has urged negotiators meeting in Belarus capital Minsk to make an immediate ceasefire their priority. Since fighting began in April this year, at least 2,600 people have lost their lives.
For the past few weeks, world leaders continue to condemn what they term Russia's violation of Ukraine's sovereignty. The EU has also threatened severe sanctions. And now, Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott has joined the list of leaders scolding Russia. Australia is upgrading its sanction level to that of the European Union, which means restrictions on arms exports, on access of Russian state-owned banks to Australian capital markets, and also financial sanctions and travel bans enacted by Australia in March. While addressing the Australian Parliament today, Mr. Abbott called Russia a bully.
Madam Speaker, so far, at least 2,500 people have lost their lives in this conflict. Let's be clear about what's happening here. Russia started it, and Russia must take responsibility for this loss of life. And now, Madam Speaker, Russia quite brazenly is trying to break the eastern Ukraine away from Ukraine itself in a separate country. Now, Madam Speaker, if Russian troops remain in Ukraine, if Russia persists in its attempt to break up a neighbouring country that has done it no harm, it risks becoming an international pariah. It risks becoming an international pariah. So, Madam Speaker, I can inform the House that Australia will lift its sanctions against Russia to the level of the European Union.
The United States and the European Union have gradually tightened economic sanctions against Russia, first imposed after Moscow annexed Crimea following the ousting of Kiev's pro-Russian president by protesters in February. In Russia's defense, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says any new sanctions from the European Union or the United States would force Russia to protect its economy, citizens and businesses. Mr. Lavrov insists that Russia has ruled out intervention into Ukraine's month-long conflict. He made the statement at a presentation to students at Moscow State Institute of International Relations, brushing off Western and Ukrainian criticisms that Russian personnel have crossed into their post-Soviet neighbor to help pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine battle government forces. Moscow also denies the presence of Russian tanks and troops in Ukraine, despite what NATO and Western governments have said is an overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
There will be no military intervention. We stand for an exclusively peaceful resolution to this most difficult crisis, this tragedy. Everything we do is targeted at promoting a political approach, but usually, unfortunately, our Western colleagues, they are blind to the situation. In my opinion, and absolutely everything that the current Kiev authorities declare and do receive support in the West.
Mr. Lavrov also played down Russia's exclusion from the Group of Eight over its annexation of Ukraine's Crimea, saying the forum had lost much of its significance since the formation of the wider G20.
Now let's bring you up to speed on Ashia King. His parents have refused to consent to their surrender to the United Kingdom at an appearance at the High Court in Spain. A judge in Madrid ruled that both parents are to be kept in police custody for a maximum of 72 hours while he considers granting bail. An international search was launched after the couple took the 5-year-old who has a brain tumor from a hospital. And that was in Southampton on Thursday. Ashia is now in hospital in Malaga. He was found with his family in the city on Saturday after they traveled to Spain, where they have an apartment. Later on, a European arrest warrant was obtained on the grounds that the kings neglected their son, who was receiving specialist care for his condition when he was taken from the United Kingdom. The process could take several months. Now, if we are to go by reports courtesy of the United Nations, the Islamic State militants, also known as IS, have made immense contribution to the inhumanity on an unimaginable scale in Iraq. The Deputy Human Rights Commissioner, Flavia Pansieri, confirmed that IS is believed to have committed systematic and intentional attacks on civilians. They include targeted killings, forced conversions, slavery, sexual abuse, and the blockade of entire communities. Ms. Pansieri also confirmed that evidence suggested that Iraqi government forces had killed detainees and shelled civilian areas. The unrest in Iraq has escalated dramatically in recent months as IS, formerly known as ISIS, and allied Sunni rebels have taken control of large parts of northern and western Iraq. Thousands of people have been killed, and the majority of them civilians, and more than 1 million others have been forced to flee their homes. Now, can you believe it's been 75 years since the start of World War II? Well, that certainly is the case, and Poland has marked the event with a wreath-laying ceremony in Gdansk port. Prime Minister Donald Tusk commemorated the dead of the war's first battle. Nazi Germany invaded Poland on the 1st of September 1939, shelling a Polish garrison in Gdansk. Britain and France also declared war on Germany 2 days later. Polish and German presidents also intend to meet to honor the war dead and discuss the war with young Poles as well as Germans. Mr. Tusk laid a wreath at a monument to Polish victims of World War II's first battle. He also referred to the current conflict between Ukrainian troops and pro-Russia separatists, saying it was not a time for naive optimism. Poland has been a strong advocate of sanctions against Russia over Moscow's support for the separatists fighting in eastern Ukraine. Well, we'll go on a break now. When we return, we'll give you an update on the Ebola virus.
If you want to know what's trending or you miss your favorite live shows, you can watch it all on our YouTube channel. Simply log on to www.youtube.com/channelsweb. Scroll down to your favorite program and click play. You can also view all uploaded videos by clicking on View All. Don't forget to subscribe and get the latest videos. If they are interesting, like them and be heard. Get connected with the channel's television YouTube page. The news at your fingertips.
Welcome back. You're still watching The World Today on Channels Television. Now, the current Ebola outbreak is no doubt the worst in history, going by the number of lives it has claimed in West Africa. Now, though affected countries have been trying to contain the virus using various methods, the governments of these countries are also taking diplomatic measures to curb the spread. Our correspondent Amarachi Ubani has this report.
This is a gathering of the National Council on Health, comprising all states commissioners of health, the 2 ministers of health, and directors from the ministry. The forum aims at appraising the preparedness of states to contain the virus and give current update on the national status of the Ebola disease. According to the Minister of Health, a total of 16 cases, including the index case, have been confirmed so far. 13 have been managed, with 7 treated successfully. 6 deaths have also been recorded, including the late Port Harcourt doctor and Patrick Sawyer, the librarian who brought the disease into the country, while 2 patients are currently undergoing treatment in Lagos. Apart from this, however, the situation in Port Harcourt remains a critical one, even though authorities have advised citizens not to panic.
Presently, as I speak, 1 case of Ebola virus disease, a 3rd-degree contact, is being treated in Rivers State. Two other contacts of the late Port Harcourt doctor, that is, one of the doctors who managed him, and a pharmacy technician working for the doctor, are symptomatic. But as at yesterday, when they were tested, both of them were negative. But because they tested, they are symptomatic, they are under quarantine. We do expect that a few more contacts will develop the EVD, especially in Rivers State, before Nigeria will see the last case of the disease.
The federal government, they are on ground, and they said that the Federal Ministry of Health have sent their team, they are working with us, they are on ground. We have the disease surveillance notification officers in the 23 LGAs, and then we have the state surveillance officer and the state epidemiologist who handle issues.
While the number of those under surveillance in Lagos have dropped from 350 to 72, that of Port Harcourt have risen to 199. Meanwhile, all the 6 identified contacts in Enugu placed under surveillance have completed their observation periods. The government says it will deploy a strong incident management team to Port Harcourt to work with the state government in containing the virus.
Well, in other news, a demonstration by opponents of Lesotho Prime Minister Thomas Thabane has been called off after he fled on Saturday, saying the military wanted to oust him. The army has denied staging a coup and says it has returned to barracks. A military spokesman also